What are your thoughts on the Astros?
Thought the apologies were whatever. Thought Manfred's punishment was weak. I mean, these guys were cheating for 3 years. People don't realize is Altuve stole an MVP from Judge. Everyone knows they stole the ring from us.
Look at the numbers. If you look at Barry Bonds, you trying to tell me he wasn't a Hall of Famer?
He's a Hall of Famer.
That's what we're talking about. This man smacked 73 home runs in a season. You could call it what you want. He cheated!
Look, baseball is supposed to be the game where heroes are made and legends are born. But sometimes those legends become villains. Sometimes the guys we're supposed to root for become the guys we absolutely cannot stand. And today we're ranking the most hated players in baseball history. But before we dive into the Hall of Shame, quick shout out to today's sponsor, Vuori. They are an incredibly comfortable, quality, an amazing athleisure, activewear, performance, training, lounge, recovery, whatever type of vibe you're going for, Vuori has clothes for you. It honestly is amazing. I wear them to the gym. I wear them when I'm just chilling on the couch. I wear them if I'm going on a run, going out to work. It honestly is amazing. I'm wearing it right now if you can't tell. It's really comfortable, really high quality. So guys, please go check out Vuori. First time purchases get 20% off their first order when they sign up for emails. I'll add all the information in the description below. Guys, check them out. Thank you, Vuori, for the sponsorship today. But besides that, guys, please subscribe to my videos. If you don't, you may not see another video of mine again. Now that that's out of the way, let's get right into today's video. Let's start with the most recent entry on this list, and honestly, it might be the most hated team in modern baseball history. You guys obviously know it's the entire 2017 Houston Astros roster. Obviously, reports broke in 2019 that the Astros were electronically stealing signs during their 2017 World Series season. Essentially, if you've been living under a rock, former Astros pitcher Mike Fiers went to The Athletic in 2019 and blew the entire thing wide open. We have a whole video on it as well. The Astros had placed a camera in center field to steal the opposing catcher's signs, then relayed what pitch was coming to their batters by banging on a trash can in the dugout. The scheme ran from 2017 and into the 2018 season. MLB's investigation found that it was largely player-driven and player-executed, meaning the players themselves were running this operation, and as we know, none of them really got punished, at least off the field. But obviously, the front office got suspended for a year and then fired, fined a couple million dollars, and lost 4 draft picks. But of course, the players that actually did the cheating, they got off scot-free. Rob Manfred gave them all immunity to get them to cooperate with the investigation, a decision he later admitted was maybe not his best decision ever. But I'm not gonna go into that. We all know this story very well. I have a whole video on it. It's very fresh in most baseball players' minds, so you can go check out that video if you want to learn more about that scandal. But let's move on into the next most hated players in baseball history. So if the Astros were the most hated team, Barry Bonds might be the most hated individual player. And here's the thing about Bonds. He was already kind of unlikable before the steroid scandal. The steroids just gave people a reason to hate him that felt more justified. Barry Bonds was an absolute freak of nature. He hit 762 home runs, which is still the all-time record, by the way. In 2001, he hit 73 home runs in a single season, shattering Mark McGwire's record, but everyone knew something was up. Bonds went from a lean, line drive hitting base stealer to a massive, muscle-bound home run machine in his mid-30s, which is exactly the time when most players start to decline. According to the book Game of Shadows, Bonds was inspired to use steroids after watching McGwire's 98 home run chase with Sammy Sosa. He started working with trainer Greg Anderson, who had connections to Balco, the Bay Area laboratory cooperative that was distributing designer steroids to athletes. By 2001, Bonds was allegedly using the Cream and the Clear, 2 designer steroids designed by Balco, along with testosterone, human growth hormone, and a whole pharmacy of other stuff. The book claims that Anderson kept meticulous records showing Bonds was taking up to 20 pills a day and had learned to inject himself. When the Balco scandal broke, Bonds testified before a grand jury in December 2003. He claimed his trainer, Greg Anderson, gave him what he thought was flaxseed oil and arthritis cream. Yeah, that's the defense. I didn't know I was taking steroids. I thought it was flaxseed oil downhill. Never mind that his hat size increased, his shoe size went up, and his body transformed in ways that don't normally happen to guys in their late 30s. Federal prosecutors showed Bonds his trainer's doping calendars coded with the initials BB and informed him about a drug test from November 2000 that showed he tested positive for testosterone. Bonds stuck to his story and was eventually convicted of obstruction of justice in 2011 for giving an evasive answer during his grand jury testimony, though that conviction was later overturned in 2015. But here's what made Bonds truly hated. It wasn't just steroids. It was his arrogance. It was the way he treated people. When the media asked him about the steroid allegations at a 2005 press conference, Bonds fired back saying,
"All you guys lied. All of y'all. In a story or whatever have lied. Should you have asterisk behind your name? When your closet's clean, then come clean somebody else's, but clean yours first."
Bonds was notoriously difficult with the media, hostile to teammates, and dismissive of fans. He had his own recliner in the clubhouse. He showed up late. He demanded special treatment. You're a kid asking the greatest hitter of all time for an autograph. You're lucky if he even verbally said no to you. He literally fought his own MVP teammate, Jeff Kent, in the dugout over a simple disagreement. And when he broke Hank Aaron's all-time home run record in 2007, Aaron didn't even attend the game. Think about that. The guy whose record was being broken couldn't even bring himself to show up because he was so disgusted by the steroid allegations. Baseball writers have repeatedly denied Bonds' entry into the Hall of Fame during his 10 years of eligibility. He never came close to the 75% threshold needed for induction. And while you could argue that's unfair, plenty of players use steroids. Bonds earned that hatred with his attitude as much as with his drug use, which is insane. Because if Barry Bonds never took steroids, he'd probably still be the greatest of all time. Now, if Barry Bonds was hated for being arrogant while on steroids, Alex Rodriguez somehow managed to be even worse. Because A-Rod didn't just use steroids, he lied about it, then admitted to some of it, then lied again, then got caught lying, and then sued everyone in sight when he finally got suspended. Let's start with the basics. Alex Rodriguez signed a $252 million contract with the Texas Rangers in 2000, the richest contract in baseball history at the time. Later, he signed a $275 million deal with the Yankees. The guy made more money than most small countries' GDP. He had it all: the talent, the money, celebrity girlfriends, the everything. He was the face of baseball, and rightfully so. But in 2009, Rodriguez admitted to using steroids from 2001 to 2003 while with the Rangers. He said he felt pressure to perform after signing that massive contract, which, okay, fine. A lot of guys come clean about steroids around that time, but here's where it gets worse. In 2013, Rodriguez's name showed up in the Biogenesis scandal. The Biogenesis clinic in South Florida was distributing performance-enhancing to athletes, and A-Rod was their biggest client. The clinic's founder, Anthony Bosch, testified that Rodriguez paid him $12,000 per month for PEDs, including synthetic testosterone and human growth hormone. MLB suspended Rodriguez for 211 games, the longest non-lifetime ban in baseball history. And while 12 other players connected to Biogenesis accepted their 50-game suspension and moved on, A-Rod decided to fight it for some reason. He was the only one to appeal. He sued MLB, he sued the Yankees team doctor, he sued the players union, he went on TV denying everything. Commissioner Bud Selig said, "You put all the things on one side and then all the things that he did to impede our investigation. So I think a 211 games was a very fair penalty." The arbiter eventually reduced the suspension to 162 games, which was a full season, but still branded Rodriguez with the longest drug-related suspension in baseball history. And it doesn't end there. DEA documents later revealed that Rodriguez had named other players during his interviews with federal agents. One of A-Rod's team members told ESPN everybody knew that once the DEA required an interview of Alex, it was game over because he was going to have to admit to everything he did. So not only did A-Rod snitch to the feds, he went out and claimed he was innocent afterwards. And here's the most A-Rod thing ever. After Bosch's camp initially denied treating Rodriguez, it turned out that the denial statement was actually drafted by one of A-Rod's own attorneys. They literally manufactured false denials. All in all, the the suspension cost Rodriguez about $25 million in lost salary, and A-Rod later admitted the whole thing cost him over $40 million total, potentially his reputation as well, and maybe his Hall of Fame chances too. In a later HBO documentary, Rodriguez showed some self-awareness, saying, quote, "There's an arrogance that often comes with power. There's a sense that I won't get caught because you actually think you're better than other people. There's nothing more stupid than that, and I learned that the hard way." But that self-awareness came way too late. A-Rod is hated not just for using PEDs, but for the elaborate lies, the lawsuits, the attempts to obstruct MLB's investigation, and just this sheer entitlement of it all. He had everything and he still cheated. And when he got caught, he blamed everyone but himself. Now, I will admit, since retiring, he's been on a huge PR tour making self-deprecating jokes, essentially admitting to everything and trying to be more likable. And I will admit, it has worked on me. In 2016, I hated the guy, but now I kind of get excited to see him on MLB Fox broadcasts. Now, speaking of blaming everyone else, let's talk about Ryan Braun. If there's a special circle of hell for steroid cheats, Braun deserves his own private suite for what he did to Dino Lorenzi Jr. In October 2011, Ryan Braun tested positive for elevated testosterone after a playoff game. Braun had just won the National League MVP award. The positive test should have resulted in a 50-game suspension, but here's where things get truly disgusting. Braun appealed the test, arguing that the sample collector, Dino Lorenzi Jr., had failed to follow protocol. Lorenzi had collected the sample on a Saturday and, finding no FedEx location open, stored it in his refrigerator until Monday before shipping it to the lab. MLB argued there was no evidence of tampering, but Braun's lawyers successfully argued the chain of custody was broken. In February 2012, an arbitrator overturned Braun's suspension, and that's when Braun decided to go full scorched earth. At a press conference, Braun proclaimed his innocence and said he could bet his life that the synthetic testosterone never entered his body. But it gets worse. Braun's camp sent anonymous emails to reporters claiming that Lorenzi was potentially anti-Semitic, and Braun is Jewish, so suggesting he was a Cubs fan who might have tampered with the sample and was anti-Semitic. Braun even told people the collector had been previously accused of being an anti-Semite. Dino Lorenzi Jr. was just a working guy doing his job. He followed the protocol as best as he could given the circumstances. There was zero evidence he tampered with anything. But Braun and his legal team absolutely destroyed this man's reputation to save Braun's career. Then in July 2013, Braun was linked to the Biogenesis Clinic, the same clinic that got A-Rod busted. Records showed that Braun owed the clinic between $20,000 and $30,000. Braun accepted a 65-game suspension and finally admitted to using PEDs, meaning that the 2011 test was accurate all along. Detroit pitcher Max Scherzer summed up how other players felt. Quote, "I thought this whole thing has been despicable on his part. When he did get caught, he never came clean. He tried to question the ability of the collector when he was caught red-handed." One Yahoo Sports columnist wrote that Braun was the walking, talking epitome of hubris and described how he stood in front of his teammates asking for their support while lying to their faces. What makes Braun special on this list is that using PEDs is one thing. A lot of guys did it, but destroying an innocent man's reputation and career to cover up your own cheating, that's a whole different level of terrible. As Sports Illustrated Michael Rosenberg wrote, "What I do not understand is destroying the reputation of a man who did nothing to you." But this story does kind of end on a positive note, because in 2013, after Braun had accepted his suspension, he made amends with Lorenzi, but that still doesn't change what happened. Dino Lorenzi Jr. deserved better, and Ryan Braun deserves every ounce of the hatred he gets. So there you have it. Baseball's Hall of Shame, from the Astros banging on trash cans to steal a World Series, to Barry Bonds and A-Rod lying about steroids, to Ryan Braun destroying an innocent man's life, to John Rocker's bigoted rants, to Pete Rose betting on his own team, to the complicated legacy of Ty Cobb. These players were all incredible at baseball. Most of them would be Hall of Famers based on purely their stats. But being great at the game isn't enough if you cheat, lie, or show complete contempt for the integrity of baseball and the people around you. The Astros tainted their championship. Bonds and A-Rod tainted their records. Braun tainted his reputation by throwing an innocent man under the bus. Rocker tainted the game with his hatred. Rose tainted his legacy by breaking baseball's most sacred rule. And Cobb, well, Cobb's legacy is still being stored more than 60 years after his death. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Did I miss anyone? Should someone be ranked higher or lower as most hated? And most importantly, can any of these guys ever truly redeem redeem themselves, or are they forever branded as baseball's most hated? But that's all for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.